make your life a masterpiece, my dear friend.
Hi, I'm Michael Heidemann. I'm here with WGN Radio with the man himself, Mr. Tony Robbins. Tony, so great to see you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the movie. How's everything going in Austin so far?
I've had a blast here. It's such a cool and hip place, fun place. And it was so great to watch the film with people. I'd only seen one cut before, but to see it with a live audience was really amazing.
Yeah, the impact that you see when I was watching it from my seat was everyone was very intently watching. It's like I'm getting a lesson from Tony Robbins himself almost.
Well, my favorite part, though, is when they, like, no. You know, I had the woman, the scene where I had the woman make a phone call to the scene. Everybody's squirming in their seats, but then, watching them laugh their tails off and many of them crying, throughout the film. Mm-hmm. Seeing all the wealth of emotions there, it's very much like going to a concert film. It's a 6-day concert that the director, Joe Berlinger, just did a genius job of making an hour and 50 minutes. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah, so what was your connection to Joe? What's this relationship that you guys kind of built where you trusted your vision with him?
Yeah, I met him socially. We have a mutual friend who's a brilliant director and movie director. Mm-hmm. And I met Joe and I just really liked him. And I became a fan of his documentaries and his works. And I felt that he had some things in his life he needed to deal with, and he wasn't being very clear about it himself. So I said, why don't you come to an event? He was very skeptical. And but he was encouraged by everybody else saying, you got to go. So he came, and I thought he was going to be an observer. Yeah. And on the first day I went, you, sir. And I called on him. He's like, oh, my God. And it was it changed his life. And so for the next 2 years, he tried to convince me to make a documentary. And I wasn't interested because I thought it would be too disruptive to the audience. And I was also just worried, how can you have integrity of a 6-day program and really show what happened in 2 hours? But we made a deal. It was really simple. I said, if you're willing to let me cut you off, if you get in the way of the experience, I got to shut this down. He said, I'm willing to take that risk. And I said, my other thing is you got to wait a year because I want you to follow up and see these people and interview them and find out where they are a year from now, because most people think change is hard. And if you do it fast, it's not going to last. And I know from 39 years that's total bullshit. So he did. And, you saw the film. You saw people's lives at the end of the year. It was mind-boggling how they changed.
Yeah, these interventions that you put through with these people, you can see it in their eyes and in their body language, the fact that you are changing their lives. I mean,
they're changing them, but I'm helping.
Exactly. You're facilitating the way that they change their lives. What's that feeling like? Like, what's that kind of connection that you feel between these people that you kind of push them towards this better future?
I love on them. I love people, and I wouldn't do what I'm doing unless I was driven crazy son of a gun. And I think you can see that. I do 12, 14-hour days. And I'm not doing that for my health. I'm doing it because I want to take people deep. I think most people's unhappiness is because we live in a world where we live at a very shallow level now. People think they're Facebook friends are their friends. I know some of your friends on Facebook, but a friendship is something deeper than that, And so I really want to take people on a journey, and I kind of fall in love with these people. And you watch the film, I don't hide my emotions, what I feel.
That's true, and that's a really good point that you brought up. You're on stage for 10, 15 hours at a time. Yeah. How do you maintain that kind of stamina?
Well, I train my body to do it, obviously, and that group is easy. It's only 2,500 people. My average event's 9,000 or 10,000 people.
Wow.
And so I got to hold that audience for 50 hours in one weekend, to give you an idea. And most people won't go for a 3-hour movie that somebody spent $300 million on and they leave. So I just got my voice and some music and my ability to direct things. But when you meet people's deepest psychological and spiritual needs, time disappears. It's kind of like, a minute feels like eternity when you're hating what you're doing. When you're loving it, when all your needs are met, time disappears. And so I'm able to take people on these journeys that most people, like Oprah came and she said, Tony, I love you dearly, but there's no way I can sit anywhere more than 2.5 hours. And 12 hours later, she's standing on a chair looking in the camera going, this is the greatest experience of my life. Usher, same thing. It's like, Tony, he doesn't have a lot of attention span for something of this nature usually. But, 4 days later, he's totally into it. So I found a way to meet people's needs. And when you do that, it's incredibly fulfilling. It's fulfilling for me, too. I don't run out of energy because there's so much energy I'm expressing and so much I'm receiving from the audience as well. I'm a recipient of their seeing them so happy.
You can feel that and kind of go from within outward almost.
Yes, exactly right.
Was there any one person that really touched you, very, very deeply, and how did you help them, through these interventions?
Well, in the film, probably the one that touched me the most would probably be the woman Dawn, who was part of the Children of God cult down in South America, where they were literally raised to believe that as being a child of God, they're supposed to have sex with the elders in the community when they're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. It's insane.
Yeah.
And so she was brutally, sexually abused most of her life till she was 12. And then she tried to keep her sister had committed suicide. She tried to keep her other sister healthy, her brother healthy, her mom. And she came there like, it was the end of her life as far as she was concerned. So when I asked who's suicidal, there's a night, people listening probably don't know this, but I have a night where I say, who's suicidal? Because whenever you're on 2,500 people, the average ratio is there's 12 people that are suicidal.
Yeah.
And so I go handle all those suicides, but she was one of the most intense ones. I was not quite prepared for that. I was deeply moved to see her transform.
I loved that part of the movie, by the way. You can see this kind of emotion with the music swelling and everything. It was a really cool part, and it's very kind of yourself to be able to speak to these people. Now, you talked a little bit in the movie about the fact that you were pushed to create this Tony Robbins, to transform yourself.
Yes.
What was that moment or collection of moments that made you do this?
You're right. It's a collection of moments. Most people think it's a moment, but I think my life has been one of continuous growth. So, but I think early on, my mom was a really beautiful soul, and I know she loved me. And I wouldn't be who I am without her. I talk about that in the film. That if my mom was very physically abusive, smashed my head against the wall till I bled, put liquid soap down my throat, saying I was lying when I wasn't lying. And I'm the oldest of three, so I became a practical psychologist to be able to deal with her and my brother and sister not get hurt. But it also made me, I had so much suffering, I don't want to see anybody else suffer. So early in my life, I decided I would never let this happen to anybody. And I, took a speed reading class and said, I'm going to read a book a day. And, read 700 books in 7 years and do a book a day. But I started applying things. And the more knowledge I got and the more I applied it to myself. And, in high school, I was Mr. Solution. You have a problem, I have a solution, especially if you're a girl, I'm extra motivated.
Yeah, imagine that.
But so there was that stage. And then later there was a stage when I started turning around athletes, or when I started taking people with lifetime phobias who've been in therapy 7 years, and I would challenge their psychiatrists on national radio in those days, and then TV. And I'd say, give me your worst patient, I'll handle them right now in an hour. And that's how I built my career, by getting results. And then I started the coaching industry. There was no coaching industry. The coaching was a sports term. But I used it because I was an athlete, and my coaches were not better than I was, but they helped me because they saw what I couldn't see. I was in the forest, right? They're outside the forest. And so that was another stage. And then when I started coaching, Mother Teresa and Nelson Mandela and President Clinton, so there have been stages along the way where my confidence obviously grew.
Now, being a communicator myself, working in radio, language is extremely important. And I see it in your movie that, language is important to you. You use a lot of crass words to get your point across and everything.
They're taboo words.
Taboo words.
There's a great book you might find interesting. It's called Taboo Words. I read it when I was 20. It changed my life. It was written by a psychiatrist who'd studied Freud, and Freud was a very messed up guy. He was a cocaine addict. He thought everybody wanted their mother because he did. But he was a genius in understanding that when you want to make a change, and you fail to change, it's because your conscious mind wants one thing, your unconscious wants another. And you got to dig into the unconscious. So he used words to provoke. Most people, when you say, how's it going? They go, pretty good, better than dead. They're not pretty good. If you and I were to use more direct language, you'd say, you're screwed, or maybe even an F word. And so what I learned is, every culture has taboo words. So if I say, she has a nice butt, or she has a nice ass, or in UK, she's a nice bum, they're all the same device. If you say penis or cock, well, that has a very big difference on your audience, right? And so they're the same thing, though. It makes no difference. It's just the taboo words. So I use taboo words in a very scientific way to jolt somebody out of the softeners. Like, we use softeners so we don't feel anything. Most people, by the time they're 21 years old, have seen 1.1 million commercials on it, instantly get out of pain.
Wow.
And so we think getting out of pain is the answer, when in reality, pain drives you to change things. And so I believe you want to learn to utilize that pain. And so I use that language very precisely to jolt. And if you watch, I never call anybody names. It's not one of those type of seminars. But I use words that, like, they're not ready for. And you see the whole nervous system jolt, and what that makes available is their unconscious. And that's where you want to make permanent changes.
That couldn't be more true. That's a good point. You want to use your language in a provocative way.
Well, where you need to be provocative. Where you want to be gentle, you want to be gentle, right?
Exactly. So you talk also a lot about progression. The power of will and just moving your life forward. Where does Tony Robbins, after you created so much, you've done so much for so many people, where do you want to be in the next 10 years?
Well, I fed 42 million people in my lifetime. I was fed when I was 11 years old. My family had no food at Thanksgiving, and it deeply impacted me. And I promised myself, and it was by a stranger, I don't even know who it was. They've obviously passed away because I've told the story and no one's approached me. But it happened when I was 11, so they're probably an older person is my guess.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was 17, I had 2 families, and the next year 4, and the next year 8. And then I had a small little company, got my employees involved, and then there was 100,000. And then for the last 14 years, I put out 2 million people a year through my foundation, and I matched it, so 4 million a year. And then I'm writing this book, Money Master the Game, and it's number 1 New York Times bestseller, but I interviewed 50 of the smartest people in the world financially. And while I'm interviewing these multi-billionaires that start with nothing, I'm watching Congress cut food stamps, or the SNAP program they now call it, by almost $8 billion, which means every family who's on that would have to give up a week's worth of food every month for 12 months.
Wow.
And so they're hoping the private sector will jump in. Well, I've been feeding to the private sector forever. So I thought, what if I donated the whole book? I got a $5 million advance for the book. It's a pretty big advance. Mm-hmm. And I said, what could I do? And they said, you could feed this many people. And then I said, I want to feed more. And then I wrote a bigger check and a bigger. So I ended up feeding 100 million people last year. And this year I'm going to do it again. And my goal is this year I'll be $250 million by the time I'm done, meaning total. I'll have $500 million within 5 years. I want to feed 1 billion people within 10 years. It's a major goal for me. And I provide fresh water in India for 100,000 people a day because the number 1 killer of children in India is waterborne diseases. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to solve. So I have a lot of goals of that nature. I have 18 companies. We do, a little over $5 billion in sales. So I have a lot of diversity in my life. And then I have 4 kids, and 3 grandkids, and I have my wife and my family, and then all these crazy events that I do. So I'm a busy man. I'm not looking. There's not much. I'm always going to be stimulated to grow.
Yeah. So the goal that you're setting is very high to feed the world. Is a pretty strong thing you should do.
I want to do it. I got the plan.
Yes. You mentioned your family, and that's kind of your support system, which I love to hear. I know your son Jarek is a motivational speaker as well.
Yeah, he is.
Now my dad told me, a lot of life lessons. What do you, as a motivational speaker, tell your son as a life lesson?
Well, it's interesting. I'm not a motivational speaker, and everybody calls it that because they see 10,000 people jumping and leaping and being in this energized state. But that's because I really believe education is normally boring as hell.
Yes.
And most people want the benefit of education, but they want the process. Mm-hmm. So I've made it into a concert. I've made it into entertainment, just like going to a sporting event. It's like going to a concert. And for Jarek, what I tried to teach him from the very beginning was that life is not about me, it's about we. When he was, 4 years old, I remember I took him to feed people. And, I was taking my friends in those days. It was Thanksgiving. We built these huge baskets and we'd feed people. And we had a few baskets left. And we went by this place that's near San Diego, Oceanside, California. There's a park there. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, there's homeless people. There's a man lying on the ground in the men's bathroom on all the junk on the ground. Oh, and he's covered up by pieces of clothing. And these baskets were beautiful. We had clothing in it, food, and everything else. And Jarek was so small, the basket was bigger than he was. I said, honey, take this in. He couldn't even lift it. So I helped him kind of set it beside the man. And all of a sudden, the man reached out and grabbed my son's hand, like from sleeping. And he screamed, and I felt an inner scream. And it all went for a millisecond. And then he did this, and he kissed my son's hand.
Oh, my God.
And Jarek was permanently marked by that. I'm so proud of him because he's a young man of such contribution. He's always looking to give back. He's always looking to do. And I really believe that's the secret to fulfillment. There's only so much money, so much accolades, so much sex, so much anything that you can feel. Ultimately, we'll have a great experience in life. We want to share it with people we love. Mm-hmm. And that's what magnifies it. And I think Jarek knows that. And he's a really, really outstanding coach. I'm really proud of him. Yeah,
it's a great thing that you're creating within these people. And if you can give it to your son as well, making the world a better place.
I have 3 boys and a girl, and I'm really proud of all of them. My other son is my partner. I have a group of financial companies. We're actually about to make an announcement. We're merging with a company. It's a $20 billion firm.
Oh, wow.
And my son is, the chief marketing officer for that firm now. So he's been involved in all those businesses as well. So it's fun to be able to do business with my family as well.
Yeah, what better team can you rely on than your family?
Totally true.
So you've done all these amazing things. You've created such a life for yourself and for your family. What do you want your true legacy to be at the end of the day?
I think it's what you'll see in the film, that that I was a man that loved people and I helped people to remember who they are and to strip away anything that stopped them from having an extraordinary life. Mm-hmm. Life on their terms, not my life, their life. And I think when you watch the film, I think it's a great little capsule of what I stand for, what I'm about. And my hope is that a film like that, when I pass, I've created a school of psychology. I've trained 100,000 therapists around the world now. I have a partner, Chloe Madonis, who's been rated one of the top 10 therapists for the last 30 years. She's brilliant. She's made all these films. And they're instructive. It's not like this documentary. They're designed to teach coaches where to go. And so I think when I'm gone, hopefully that will continue. The skill sets that I created will continue, and they'll help people to make changes much more rapidly in a much more lasting format.
I love it. So speaking of the name, I'm Not Your Guru.
Yes.
Why that kind of name? Why go?
Well, that was Joe's name. He came up with it. But in the seminar, I say to people, I'm not here to be a guru. I'm not here to fix you. You're not broken.
Mm-hmm.
I really know you're not. You may think you're broken, but I know you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And all I'm going to do is be a good friend and a good coach and get you where you really want to go. I'm not looking for you to accolade or bow to me or, all that BS that so many people have done in the past that disgusted me. Without naming names, there was a firm years ago, the center of that firm in the personal development area he was the center of everything, and it just made me so angry. So I never want to be anything like that.
I love it. So I saw you also listen to a lot of music.
Yes.
To pump yourself up. I myself have a music podcast over at WGN.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, it's called Sound Sessions.
Oh, that's cool.
And I wanted to know, what kind of music does Mr. Tony Robbins get himself to pump himself up?
I love everything. Pitbull just performed at my event a couple days ago, just as a surprise for everybody. I love Rihanna, but I love some country. I love to mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
I love rap. If you ever go to one of my events, it's variety.
Yeah.
I really use music as a scoring device. Like if you watch a movie without the music, it sucks.
Yeah.
But when you put the right score, it's incredible. So I score everything. I believe you should score life. And so I love using music. I love that you do that. And what's so nice today is I grew up in a generation where we had Walkmans.
Yeah.
You had to really like that damn album because you went for a run. Those are the only songs you're going to hear. Today, we have everything. It's a beautiful world.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of concerts do you go to if you were going to...
Well, I was just going to go to Rihanna's concert the other day, and unfortunately I was in Denver, and it was my birthday, and they did this birthday party, so I can't complain. But I'm going to Rihanna. I'll go see who are we going to see next. My wife loves Krishna Das, who does this incredible Indian music. We're going to go hear him. Mm-hmm. I'll go see Aerosmith still.
Yes.
Steven Tyler and those guys. So we see when we see something's coming, we usually kind of grab it and really go for it, type of thing. I love U2 still. They've been around forever, but they're still cool and shit. I still love them.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Well, Tony, it was a pleasure talking to you. I can't thank you enough. Congratulations on the movie. This is Tony Robbins. I'm Not Your Guru. Go and check it out. Michael Heidemann with